For anyone whose grief has shaken their faith, this message is for you. Losing a child doesn't just break your heart, it can shake your faith too. Many grieving parents quietly ask a question they're almost afraid to say out loud. Why did God allow this? And in this video, I want to talk honestly about why grief changes faith and why God understands that struggle. Before my son Logan passed away, my faith felt simple. I believed God protected the people that I love. I believed prayer kept terrible things away. But grief has a way of shaking the foundation of everything we thought we understood about life and about God. And suddenly, the faith that once felt steady can feel confusing. You still believe in God, but you don't understand Him the same way you did anymore. And that can make grieving parents feel guilty. And some people think questioning God means their faith is weak. But the truth is something very different. In the Bible, some of the most faithful people ask God the hardest questions. David cried out in Psalms. Job questioned everything. Even Jesus asked, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" And questioning God in grief is not a failure of faith. It's a sign that your relationship with Him is real, because real relationships include honesty. And when your heart is shattered, honesty with God becomes one of the most sacred forms of prayer. One of the things people don't talk about enough after child loss is how lonely faith can feel. And people around you often expect grief to look a certain way. They might say things like, "God needed another angel, and everything happens for a reason. You just need to trust God." But when your child is gone, those words can feel painfully empty, because grief isn't theoretical. It's waking up every morning and realizing your child isn't here. It's hearing their name and feeling both love and heartbreak at the same time. And faith inside grief looks very different than faith before loss. And sometimes faith is not feeling strong. And sometimes faith is simply whispering, "God, I don't understand, but I'm still here." And that kind of faith is incredibly powerful, because God never required perfect understanding. He only asked us to bring Him our hearts exactly as they are. And even when those hearts are broken. Over time, I began to realize something important about grief and faith. And grief didn't destroy my faith, it changed it. My faith became quieter, deeper, and more honest. Instead of believing God only protected me from pain, I began to understand that God also walks with us through our pain. In Psalms 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted," not the people who have everything figured out, the brokenhearted. And if you're grieving today, if your faith feels different, and if your prayers feel more like questions than answers, you're not failing God. You are walking through one of the most sacred and painful journeys a human heart can experience. And God is not offended by your grief. He sits with you inside it. And sometimes the faith that grows in grief is actually stronger than the faith we had before. Not because the pain disappears, but because the relationship becomes more real. Before loss, faith can feel like certainty, but after loss, faith often becomes trust. Trust that even when we don't understand, God is still present. Trust that even when prayers feel different, they are still heard. Trust that the love we shared with our child was never wasted. And grief changes the way we see many things. It changes how we see life. It changes how we see ourselves. And yes, sometimes it changes how we see God too. But change does not mean loss. Sometimes change means depth, a deeper compassion for others who are hurting, a deeper understanding of suffering, and a deeper awareness of how precious love really is. And if your faith feels different after loss, that doesn't mean your faith is broken. It may mean your faith is growing in a way you never expected it to. And God, He's patient in that process. He does not rush grieving hearts. He does not demand quick answers. He simply walks beside us, one step at a time. Even on the days when prayer sounds like tears more than words. If grief has changed your faith, I've made other videos that may bring you comfort. And you can watch them right here at the link below. And if these messages help your heart even just a little bit, I'd love for you to subscribe and share so we can continue walking this grief journey together. And with love always, Angela and Logan.